Hey everybody, Mike McWilliams. Welcome to Upstairs to the Right Music. Today we're going to do a little bit of viewer mail. We got this question from JP Williams. What would you say your favorite sounding pickups are? Is it really fair to compare P90s to PAFs to Filtrons, etc.? Or would you say it's more of a decision based on taste, style of play, etc.? Well, thank you, JP, for writing that question. Boy, oh boy, have I been down the rabbit hole when it comes to pickups. Just to share with you a few. I have a complete set of Saturday night specials from Seymour Duncan. I have a set of antiquities also from Seymour Duncan. I have two sets of classic 57s that I pulled out of my recent Les Pauls, this one and the Les Paul Premium Plus. So that would be the Classic 57 and the Classic 57 Plus. Got two sets of those. Also, there is a winder in China called Dauntless that you can order just about any kind of winding that you want. I did a winding here that's kind of based on the 59, I guess with the Classic 59s. In any case, Seymour Duncan pickups with an Alnico 4 magnet in them. And this is just a few of the pickups that I just pulled out of my drawer just to give you an example of how you can spend a lot of money chasing tone when at the end of the day you probably really should think about what that tone is that you're looking for. That's your starting point. So let me talk a little bit about that. Now, so many players have come to the conclusion that somehow vintage guitars are superior to anything that you can find today. Now, I'm not going to get into the arguments about that because there's pros and cons on either side of that argument, but if you do follow down the trail of thought that classic vintage guitars are superior, then that must mean that the pickups in those guitars are superior as well. Just yesterday, I went to visit my luthier to pick up a guitar that he was doing some work on, and he showed me an actual real PAF from 1961 that he has. He informed me that he knows that he can get about $2 grand for it. I always, just as a side note, I always heard about the odor of these pickups, so I took the opportunity to sniff it a little bit. Just for you guys who wonder, it smells like puke with metallic overtones or undertones. So if that means anything, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny. But in any case, so I was sitting there thinking to myself, and also pre-CBS pickups for Fenders, those will run you also $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 as well. Now, believe it or not, there was a time in the 70s when those classic and what we call vintage pickups now were not really highly desirable at all. Guitar players were really seeking higher output, and that's why guys like Dimarzio came out with their super distortions. We'll talk about that in a minute, and other boutique makers also came out with these higher output, what's a tough one to say, higher output pickups, and cats were pulling those out of their 59 bursts, their 58, 59, 60 bursts. They were pulling out those, what we consider to be vintage PFs now, and they were replacing them with these boutique wines. As a matter of fact, some shops had literally boxes full of these, what we now, charge thousands and thousands of dollars for. Nobody wanted them. If you look at the history, for example, of the Guitar Trader guitars, one of the bonuses that they were giving along with those custom order guitars, Les Pauls, they were going to include a vintage set of pickups in it because the guy just had them sitting around his shop. That's one of the reasons now why those Guitar Trader guitars are considered highly desirable and very hard to find as well. But back then, nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted them because they didn't have that high output sound that a lot of guys in the 70s were looking for. Now, there are countless pickup winders out there. I've shown you a few. Here I'm going to run a list of some more. All of them are seeking that vintage sound, that vintage, especially, let's talk about Les Paul, let's just focus on that, the humbucker sound. So a lot of these cats are seeking that vintage tone. Now that vintage tone, if you read the internets, lays somewhere between ZZ Top's Brown Sugar, the first 8 or 12 bars of that, or on the other side of the spectrum, Ace Frehley's tone, like Rock and Roll All Night, for example. So many winders are really trying to find the tone, wind the tone, somewhere between those. I lean in preference more towards the latter than the former, but that's just me and my taste. Now, many of those original boutique winders from the 70s, they also have changed their formulas so much that if you were to compare, for example, a super distortion from the 70s to a super distortion now, quite frankly, they are two completely different sounding pickups. So it's funny, now those 70s pickups are now a vintage tone that people are seeking. Fortunately, they can be had for a lot less than the pickups, the PAFs, the humbuckers from the 60s. So let me share a couple of those with you. Here we have a super distortion. This is dated from around 1980, 1981, and you can tell why that is by the mounting pegs on this. The ones from the 70s have square pegs. As a matter of fact, here I have a Super 2, which, as you can see, does have the square pegs on it, so that puts this at right square in the 70s in terms of the manufacturer on this. These are really the sound that I like. These are my pickups of choice. As you can see, like I've said, I've tried a lot of different ones. It keeps coming back to the vintage Dimarzios. We'll talk about these in a minute. I want to share this with you. This is the latest guitar to my collection. This is a 1979 Westbury guitar. These were made at the Matsumoto factory in Gano in Japan. This is stock, so this is everything on here is original, and you can see the Dimarzio DP 103, which is their PAF, and the Super Distortion was so popular, these guitars came stock with it. So I just wanted to share with you that this was the popular pickup combination back in the 70s. My copper top, my pride and joy guitar. This copper top, as you know, in the bridge position, I have a 1977 DP 103, the Dimarzio take on the classic PAF, that has these square pegs on the bottom. That's how I know it's a circa around 76, 77, 77, 78. I was able recently to purchase another square pegged Dimarzio DP 103 that I could put in a neck position. So now, in my opinion, this is the quintessential, rock tone guitar. I can get, because these are low output pickups and not high outputs like the Super Distortion, the Matsumoto guitar, the Westbury there. You can really achieve a variety of sounds, tones with this pickup combination, the double PAF, that you can't really get with the combination of the PAF and the Super Distortion, or the Super 2 and the Super Distortion. Now, the sound of the DP 103 that I have two in this copper top, as I just said, is a very, it's got more of a low mid-range presence to it. So in all of these Dimarzio, it's a matter of voicings. When you get to the Super Distortion, this is really more of a thick, bassy, not bass heavy, but a thicker sounding pickup. When you get into the Super 2, this is voiced on the opposite of the Super Distortion. This actually is more trebly of a pickup. So if you have a particularly dark guitar, you probably want to put something like the Super 2 in your bridge position. Now, this Super 2 was a favorite pickup of Jerry Garcia. And his three humbucker, no, actually, I'm sorry, and his guitar, his dragon guitar, is that what it is? Yeah, his dragon guitar. He had a single coil, then he had two humbuckers, one in the middle position and one in the bridge position. Both of those pickups were Super 2s. So, you know, a very versatile sounding pickup. Now, there are a lot of records out there. A lot of cats out there that use these Dimarzio vintage pickups. Well, back when they were using them, they weren't pickup, they were vintage, they were brand new. A lot of cats use these. For example, Ace Really, as you know, on Alive, that is just classic super distortion all day long. Gary Rackrath of REO Speedwagon on the great album High Infidelity. Heard it from a friend who, heard it from a friend who, heard it from another, you've been messing around. That is super distortion written all over that. Other super distortion users are Iron Maiden on the album Number of the Beast. There you have a classic, also super distortion tone. Def Leppard on their early albums, super distortion all the way. And of course, as we've talked about before, Tom Schultz on the first couple of Boston albums. It's just super distortion all the way. So a lot of different, you know, rock styles in the albums, the examples of it, there's many more of the albums that I've just mentioned, of how these vintage super distortion pickups really are the way to go if you're looking for that classic rock sound. I gotta tell you, I've made my mind up. There's a lot of other great pickup winders out there that I've heard that I'm impressed with, but at the end of the day, I can get the tone that I have in my head, or at least I can get to where I want to go with the help of the Dimarzio vintage pickups from the 70s. So they are my favorite pickups. They are all that I will use. Eventually, every guitar that I have that has humbuckers will have them in them. As soon as I collect enough appropriate sets. I'm particularly interested in putting the Super 2 in the neck and putting the super distortion in the bridge of the next victim, the next guitar that I get in. And so we'll see how that sounds. But to answer your question there, kind of long-windedly, JP Williams, that's why these are my favorite pickups of choice. I hope that helps you. I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing to your tone is knowing the tone that you're seeking. It should be in your head. You should know what it is. I do encourage you to seek it out, but avoid going down the rabbit hole of gas, gear acquisition syndrome. You know, if you find a pickup that you like, that works for you, that's the tone you want, then stick with that. Yeah, not every pickup works, and especially humbuckers work in every guitar. But I'll tell you something, another reason why I like these vintage Dimarzios is because they work in every guitar. You know, super distortion is super distortion. And, you know, at the end of the day, they are a fraction of the cost compared to going out and getting yourself a vintage PAF, or even some of the more modern boutique winders. I like Wiz pickups, fantastic, beautiful sounding pickups, but they are pricey. They'll run you in the $700, $800 for a set range, as opposed to I can get a set of vintage Dimarzios for about $175, $180 with shipping. So, you know, you gotta weigh that out in your head too. Anyway, thank you very much for checking out this show today. I hope it was informative to you. I really enjoyed talking about it. If you like the content today, please take the time to hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I'm just starting out here. I have a small number of subscribers that I love each and every one, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's try to grow the family up So share this with your friends, share this with other people, and let them know that you like this content and they should check it out. And I will see you guys on the upside. See you later. Bye-bye.
Like the show? Well, show your support by subscribing and hitting the like button. See you later.